Well, that was bizarre. Just got disconnected on our live. So, um, if you were joining us, I apologize for that interruption. And hopefully Nadine will join back in. Somehow she got booted out, and then it just would not allow me to get her back in here. So here she is again. Um, I'll just wait just 1 second to see if she is able to join, and we will start again. There you are. I
I have no idea what
I
happened
don't
there. I'm
know.
so pleased.
I
I
don't know.
disappeared.
Yeah, and
Oh,
it would not, it kept saying you were requesting to join, but it wouldn't. I kept hitting accept and it wasn't working. So
oh, bless
then
you.
finally I'm
You
just
have,
like, I'll just start over. So
oh, bless you. You had to feel
it's
the change.
unfortunate, but
Change,
that's
isn't
fine.
it?
Yeah, we just go with the flow. And
Exactly.
it's so, this is what the energy is right now. And I feel like today, especially, I don't know why it feels everything's so glitchy today, but so we're here.
Glitchy
This
like
is
that.
Trish and Nadine talking about we're talking about change. We've been having these chit chats, but it's been a while since we've been at it. We took a little break, and Nadine had shared on the live that we lost that she's been going through some changes of her own. I don't know if you want to reiterate or go back to
So,
that, and we can kind of
shall I
start
say,
over again. Yeah,
shall we start? Shall we start over again? Yes,
yeah,
we're talking about change today, and a perfect example of how things change and how we need to adapt, and we've done that, haven't we?
yeah.
So yes, and we were talking about the new moon in Scorpio, weren't
Right.
we? And how this is a time of change, the collective energy and the energy that we have for ourselves to dip into it. So, did you
Yeah.
want to share again about that Scorpio energy
Yeah,
and what you
we
think about
just
more?
briefly, so how we tie that in and why it's so relevant. And we may be feeling that new moon just peaked on November 13th, but we may be feeling that energy of the Scorpio energy is all about, well, its ruling planet is Mars. So Mars is about action and our behaviors and all that, but also what lies beneath, like what is in the unseen, what's in the shadows and about death and rebirth. So, and we are just in a collective time, I believe, of death and rebirth. And that's why we see so much turmoil in the world right now. And so that's why it ties in, but we may be feeling that energy even more intensely now because as the new moon has passed and it's peaked, we feel the new moon's energy build versus a full moon where we feel that build leading up to the full moon's
Yeah,
peak.
yeah,
So that may, if it makes it make sense, I would say astrology makes it make sense, makes everything make sense, and everyone can view it through their own lens, whether they believe in it or not. It exists, I believe, for us to tap into and to help us and guide us and support us. And like I said, make it make sense.
mm,
And as always, take what resonates and leave what
yeah,
doesn't. But you had a beautiful quote or kind of like a summary of this energy, and I think
mm,
it was so
yes,
aligned.
yes. Where you just said take what resonates, that's exactly what I do. I listen, I try and take it all
Mm-hmm.
in. And actually, something that really resonated with me is this little phrase that I'd like to read out, if that's okay, about the new moon in Scorpio and the idea that we are changing. And that's what we're talking about. And what it said was, we're shedding our old scaled skin to rebirth our eagle wings and soar. And
Yeah,
I
I love
I
that.
just love that, because to me, that's exactly what's going on with me physically, with the chemotherapy and everything that I'm going through. I'm shedding skin, I'm shedding hair, and and then it's that rebirthing, isn't it? How we come back and how we change. And then that wonderful, that I've got a visual about having these wonderful eagle wings and I'm going to soar, and that's what
Mm-hmm.
I'm looking forward to. So that is a change that I'm physically going through, but deeply emotionally too.
Yeah,
It's definitely happening for
on
me. So the
on
universe is supporting me in that, I feel.
yeah, I think on all the levels, energetically, emotionally, physically, like you said, and it's so beautiful that you've made that connection, and it helps, I think, us kind of move through whatever's coming up when we're experiencing the change, because I think our first inclination as humans and the way we've been socialized is to push away any discomfort, push
Mm.
away anything that's painful, and we just want it like things to stay the same because it feels better. But
Yeah.
what ultimately we end up doing then is denying ourselves that like transformation, like you said, from the shedding of the skin to the eagle's wings soaring, and that transformation lies within that discomfort where the wisdom is for us to go down and excavate. And I think like that word excavate is like, for me, that's like the epitome of Scorpio energy, because it's everything that's been buried, that we haven't faced, that we know kind of is there, or maybe we don't know. I talked this week about, or in one of my posts, about how we carry seven generations of DNA in our body. So that's DNA in general, but that DNA holds trauma, wounds, everything that our ancestors experienced before us. We're carrying that. So we may think that, oh, my life is great. I don't have anything, traumatic in my life that's affected me. I don't have any inner work to do or whatever. But I feel like there's always something that, and a lot of times it's something we can't see. It lies beneath the surface. So again, Scorpio energy.
Yes.
And that's the invitation of this. And so it's so perfect that we're talking about, like, that we felt intuitively to pick back up with the topic of change where we left off from our last chit chat. And I love, first of all, I just want to say I love that we're doing this, that you had this idea from reading the book Love Me, the first book, and said, I want it, like, things are coming up, I want to talk about it. Because I feel like when we talk about what we're reading, it takes it a level further than just reading it. It helps us to, first of all, but then it helps other people, because other people hear the conversation and say, oh, me too. Like, oh, that resonates for me too, or whatever. Don't you think?
Yes.
Like, I think
And
that's why we keep doing this.
We do get that, don't we? We get people get in touch with us and say, oh, that's exactly what I'm feeling. So this is why it's so wonderful, isn't it, that we can have these conversations for people to join in with, and do put comments in. We will look at them even afterwards, if you want to put the replay, if you listen to this later. But it is something that I really feel privileged to be able to do, because I do get a chance to ask you questions, and I really get a chance then to question it myself. And as I say, when I read, and I am, you can feel the notes I've got in your lovely book, I read it, I dip in, I dip out, I come back, I reread, I ask questions.
Right.
And that really helps me. So that's something. So I would encourage all of you to get Trish's book. There's more than this one, isn't there? There's poetry, there's meditations, and this one is the original, isn't it? And it's so wonderful. And as I say, I dip in and out of it. And I would really like, there's a wonderful couple of small paragraphs about change that I'd love to read out, if I may, because it really sums up what we're talking about. And this is what I do. I pick on these things, and I read them, and they really hit home to me. And then I go, oh, I can ask Trish a bit more. So I'm so lucky to be able to do this, and it's lovely that we can share it too. So are you okay if I read this bit out?
Sure.
Really
I love it, Nadine.
And people will get what we're talking about, because your writing is so concise and so beautiful. So this is actually, as I say, the original Love Me book, on a page 124. If you've got it, have a look. If you haven't got it, get it. And it says, change is an invitation into our expansion, which is just what you were saying, wasn't it? An invitation makes it sound a lot softer, doesn't it? And I love that. So these paragraphs say, these moments of uncertainty and of loss of routine that we may now realize we took for granted can be opportunities for us to take a step back and come home to ourselves, to pause, breathe deep, and just be for a moment, to strengthen ourselves from the inside out. And from there, we can decide how we see, feel, and approach whatever is coming next. Change alters us, but if we embrace the invitation that it extends to connect deeper with ourselves, we can choose how we navigate it. Having this stability, this home within us to go to in the uncertainty is valuable beyond measure, especially right now. We won't be returning to the way things used to be, to the old normal. I honestly, when I read out loud, I so love reading these things out loud, because I get chills, and I've read that so many times, and it's just like the first time I've read it.
It's like the first time I'm hearing it too, like you reading it. First of all, you reading my book is like, maybe we should do the audio version and you narrate it.
Oh, Oh, I'd love
I was
to.
just
Oh, I'd
talking
love to.
about doing the audiobook this weekend too, and anyways, another conversation,
Yes,
but
have
little
that
like sticky
conversation,
note on that
definitely.
one.
Oh,
But
I did make, I made a bit of a muddle there, but we got the
you
point, didn't
didn't,
we? So,
well, I didn't catch it, but I feel like, wow, like first of all, like I wrote that, but I didn't write that. Like that's a divine message coming through that everybody, it's not just for me. That's why I wrote the book and shared what I shared about my personal story, because like, yeah, it's my personal story, but everyone can draw parallels in their own life like you
yeah,
have.
yeah.
And that message is for everybody. It's not just for me. So why would I keep that to myself? And like, that's why we're talking about this as well. And that's why I talk about it so much, because we don't, number one, have to carry all of this weight of pain and grief and whatever it is that we're carrying around with us forever. We can release it. We can let it
Yeah,
go.
yeah,
We can sink into it, surrender to the process, and then that allows us to release it. But we can't just skip it and get to the release. We have to
yeah.
actually face it and
Mm,
feel it, and
yeah.
that's
Le-
not always fun, and I think that's why we tend to not want to go there
yeah.
and to externally pretend that we're doing all right when we're not, and
Mm,
so on.
yeah.
There's so many ways we avoid it.
We do, don't we? We so do. And I've been the first to admit that I don't like change. I'm not
Mhm.
comfortable with it, but it is around us. It happens whether we like it or not. And actually, this where you've started it off, change is an invitation into our expansion. That just makes it so it's not so scary, because I do find change quite scary and I do resist it still, even though I know that it's good for me. I'm going to grow from it. I'm going to learn from it. I still have that resistance and that fear. But where those words is just so beautiful, and the way you said to pause, to breathe deep, and just be for a moment. This is what I talk about all the time, isn't it? It's the calmer self message in the very essence, isn't it? Pause, take a moment,
Yeah,
come back, choose how you want to come back. And actually, you've written it so beautifully there. And I'm thinking, yes, that's what we need to do, isn't it? Take a moment, be brave, come back how we want to. It's there for us, isn't it? To embrace. And
it
you said
is.
that, didn't you? Connect with ourselves a bit deeper.
I,
It's so
it is.
valuable, isn't it?
That is such a gift we can give ourselves. We don't have to knee jerk react to life all the
Mm,
time. Like we can
mm,
pause, and that was something I learned too. Like whenever you're in a dynamic with somebody in a relationship, you're having a conversation, and we don't have to give an immediate response to everything. We can
mm,
take a pause. It's okay to
yeah,
pause and really
mm,
reflect on. And I think that number one, I want to tie in, there's the Scorpio and Mars conjunct the sun and moon in Scorpio,
yeah, yeah,
energy of taking a pause, allowing ourselves to have that moment to discern how we're going to move forward, how we're going to behave, because um, I don't know if I said it in this one or the one that got deleted or whatever, but like a lot of our behavior is at the subconscious level. Like we don't even realize we're reacting a certain way. And that's why it's so important to go into these experiences where we're feeling emotionally, some emotional discomfort or what have you, whatever it might be, to explore what that's all about so that we can get through it and release it. That allows ourselves some more self-awareness too in the process of
mm,
it, for when we do then meet and butt heads with somebody again, or just whatever we do. We're always doing this dance with people, and we can kind of like reclaim our power, reclaim our self-awareness when we're in that, when we have taken the time to go in and feel what we're feeling and embrace that change,
yeah,
and come through it, literally transform, because we are changing who we are in that process,
mm,
and how we
mm,
engage with people and interact and relate and all of the things.
yeah,
So I think it's so beautiful. It's not easy. Like we all, like, even,
no,
and I say it in my posts, I'm not excluded from anything I post about. It
mm,
might not be happening to me in the moment, exact moment in my life, but it's happened at some point, and
mm,
it will always keep coming back around, because we're always, um, I call, like, it's, and other people say too, in the spiral of life, and we're going to see things from different experiences. Like I wrote this book to process breakup, I was writing poetry to process my pain and face it, because I wanted to not repeat the patterns anymore in relationships. And I'm talking relationships of all kinds, where I uncovered that I was a people pleaser, or finally realized that I was. So it's like, acknowledging, taking that change that happened and saying, okay, this happened. Now what do I do with it? I can either just become the victim to it and let it be, and let it be everyone else's fault, or I can kind of reclaim, my inner strength and face like what I need to heal within myself, I think. And it's always ongoing. It's never done.
It is, isn't it? And I think it's so valuable to recognize, that we can look inward and find out things about ourselves that we maybe didn't appreciate. And we can, it says, we're not going back to how things used to be. We're not going back to the old normal. We have changed. We change all the time.
Right.
And I think, this book, you've just said, this was written at the end of a relationship, wasn't it? And it was part of your processing, your change and everything, and very, very valuable. And there's so much in here that will help other people when they're going through change and the break of a relationship. And when we're feeling pain and we're scared and there's change going on that we didn't ask for. But, you're in a different position now, aren't you? We're a little bit down the line. I think this has just had an anniversary. Is it 2 years?
2 years.
2 years.
Yeah.
So we're talking a little bit about how much you have changed and what's going on for you. But you're still navigating change, aren't you, as you explore the way life is for you now?
I think that it's so interesting too, because you mentioned the 2-year anniversary, and now I think back to 2 years ago when I published this book, and even by the time I had published it, my life had already changed. Like everything had already changed. Like that was no longer my story, and so, but still, it's still a part of who I am, and it's still an experience I've had. So, and now, now 2 years after that, and so I took that time after that relationship to, be by myself and do some inner work, some personal work, some healing, and, and to find like real self-love. I mean, I thought I had found it when I wrote this and published this book, but it just continues to grow because we have more experiences where we can tap into and learn more about ourselves in that process, and then have more self-awareness when we're in relationship with other people, and finally, being in a position to, say, hey, maybe I do want to be back in a relationship again, and see, because, and what I realized that now that I've been in a relationship, it's now been 6 months, just on the new moon in Scorpio, by the way, was 6. And so, I always like to acknowledge those little synchronicities, but anyways, and nothing is perfect. Nothing is ever like what we think it's going to be. But the beauty of it is to open up to whatever is in front of us, and to embrace it. And for me, right away, I learned that, I did a lot of work on myself, but that's only so good as when I'm with myself. And then it really gets put into practice when you're in relationship with somebody else. And so then I really had to face my truth, and it wasn't always fun to say, hey, Trish, why are you going back to those old responses and reactions when you know better? So again, it's an opportunity, we can do the work on our own, but then we need to come together in relationship with people to kind of expand on that, and to really deepen that self-love. That self-love can only be so deep when it's on your own. And it's really more apparent when you're in relationship with somebody how much you love yourself, and where you're willing to put, where you put your boundaries, and also where you may fall back into old habits, and then kind of having that what it has helped me do is have the self-awareness when I am falling, when I do kind of have a reaction that was like a past Trish reaction, and it's okay, and not beat myself up over it, and also thank the person who kind of brought that out. And, I'm learning so much from him as well. And, I always thought you have to be on the same exact parallel journey to be, my next relationship that I thought of, but no, it's just the openness to be self-aware, to how learn about yourself, learn about the other person, and how you move forward together, if that makes sense. Sorry, I know I'm going on and on and on,
No,
but
it makes sense to me, and I think it's so interesting that, like you say, you had done this work for yourself, by yourself, and everything, and then it's almost like put to the test maybe a little bit when you're in a relationship, and can I do this? And you've got all those maybe old doubts and fears coming back, and not knowing. And this is what we say, isn't it? The work is never done. It would be nice if it was, but it never is, and that's good. It's ongoing all the time, and there are always going to be challenges that are thrown at us to test it, if you like, and so we can check in with ourselves, can't we, and just go, am I true to myself, if you like? Am I choosing what I want to choose? We can question, can't we? And as you know, I call it gentle questioning, because I do it within a meditation. But that, again, just pausing for a moment, taking a moment to make your choices, because we can choose whatever we want, whatever life throws at, we can still choose, can't we? And it's lovely how you are, you're doing this with someone else now, and it's different, isn't it? This is a
different.
change, isn't it?
It is.
It's not, but there's some of the old patterns that pop up every now and again, don't they? And then you can question that again and choose. So it's changed in so many different ways, isn't it? Which is wonderful.
Right. And I used to think of those things like the universe is testing us, but it's not really the universe. I mean, it is, but we are the universe. Like the universe is us, it is in us, and that is our soul testing. We're testing ourselves, and we just don't realize it. And so it's okay. And again, it's the having the humility to be wrong and not always have to be right. And I think that goes for, without saying, for any relationship, that that it's better, you don't always have to be right. And it's I don't know, I just feel like I have learned in these last 6 months just as much as I learned about myself in the 4 to 5 years that I was by myself. And it's just beautiful. Like life is just this dance, and it's just different different steps, or I don't know dance lingo, but I just feel like, I say it in my book somewhere, where we're just in this constant like dance of coming together and moving apart, and with everybody, and to different degrees. And so just enjoying that ride. And like I said, life is life, and life is not necessarily easy on the collective level right now, for sure, but we're all experiencing it in our own ways individually, and that's okay. But it's just the ability to move through it and not run away from it. I think that's the invitation there.
And for me, I find it's my tendency was to almost freeze, get stuck when I'm in fear, when things are happening that I don't fully understand. And again, it is that, I love the way you say, oh, it's a dance, you can step in, you can step out, I don't know if I'm going to say the hokey cokey. Take it all about. And that actually, to me, that's what came to mind, that life is a dance. And if we do the dance, we can actually go through it, can't we, and sway our way through it and find a way, can't we? Rather than, as I say, my old fear pattern is like, oh, I'll just freeze, I'll just stop, which I think is quite common. I think a lot of people feel that we just get stuck, don't we? And I love that, you're in this new relationship, and you're finding your way with this, and it's constant, and it's okay not to know all the answers, isn't it? When I do my gentle questioning on myself, I don't always come up with the answers, but I've just put that question there, and sometimes the answer will come, not always immediately, and sometimes it doesn't, and that's okay, because it's an ongoing question. It's an ongoing sort of investigation, if you like, and that can be fun in itself, can't it? Well, what is this really? What's going on? So those are the kind of things I say to myself. What am I really feeling? My initial reaction to things isn't always the real feeling that's going on for me. So again, that pause, step back, take a breath, and choose is powerful, isn't it?
That's such a good point, that our initial reaction isn't always like what it is. It's usually something beneath that. Like there's surface level emotions, like anger is one of those, and usually beneath that is what the real emotion is. And it's so good that you brought that up, and I'm so glad you're sharing this, and like, you know, that must be, you know, going through what you have been through recently as well. Like, how did you, you know, like you said, you kind of just have to, you have all the tools that you know. So, I mean, if you want to share a little bit more
Yeah,
about that too.
you're so right. You know, I do have a lot of tools. I'm very blessed to be in this time of my life, and I've got all this. I've got wonderful support around me. I've got you supporting me so much, you know. And you know, in our private sessions where you're supporting me and giving me wonderful Reiki healing, you know, I show every emotion. I'm angry a lot of the time. That's my initial go-to. That's the one I'm most comfortable with, believe it or not. But there's always something underneath, isn't it? And when we work together, when we talk about things and when the real emotions come out, then there's tears, there's all of the emotions, there's sadness, there's fear, there's everything going on. But it's really beneficial, isn't it, to be able to express it. You know, you've done this wonderful writing, your poetry, your artwork, you know. I don't tend to do that. Maybe I will one day. But for me, it is in how I speak, and speaking it out loud is so important, and being heard.
Mm-hmm.
And this is one of the things that you give me, isn't it? You know, you hear me and you understand. And it's so, so important, isn't it? That, you
It
know, even
is.
talking like this, you know, I feel I'm saying things out loud. When I read the passages from your book, they are so deep because I'm saying them out loud. There's power in speaking out loud, isn't there? And I'm so
There
lucky that
is.
I get to do that in so many different ways, you know, personally to you, publicly, you know, on this kind of medium, you know.
Yeah.
It really does help, and I would encourage anybody to speak out loud, you know. When I'm angry, and I say, and you've heard this before, Trish, and I don't know how many people know me that well, but I have little 3-year-old tantrums almost, you know. I will shout and scream, stamp my feet. I get really, really cross. And you said, you know, how are you dealing with all your changes? You know, I have been cross a lot of the time. I have been angry. I have been stroppy. I've had my little temper tantrums. My inner child has been there with me all through this. You know, my little Nadine has done all of that. And that's okay, because it's taken me back to my childhood fears, my childhood panic, my childhood feeling that I wasn't heard. I've been visiting those places through every step of my changing journey,
Mm-hmm.
through all of this cancer diagnosis and the treatment and everything that's going on. So it's making me revisit all of these things. And strangely enough, I'm really grateful for that, because I'm getting a chance to dig deeper, really, really look at my feelings and work on them a bit more, and face my fears. You know, my big, big fears of the word cancer. I'm sure everyone can relate to that one. You know, being told you've got cancer, big, big fear. Chemotherapy, you know, as soon as that word was mentioned, I went into that retreat stuck feeling, you know, angry as well, because I didn't want it. That's not what I want. That's not what I'm going to do, and everything. So my anger was really right. My defiance, my fear, and my being stuck. But again, just giving myself that time, this process. This has been quite a long process for me, and it's continuing, you know. But again, I'm quite grateful for that, because I need that time to process.
Yeah.
I need that time to just deal with it all, you know, everything that's coming up. And like you say, leaning into your feelings and really going with it. I've learned that that is the way for me to deal with it. I still don't really like it,
Mm-hmm.
but I like the outcome, and I'm grateful for that. So change, where we're talking about this, change is something we avoid, and we don't want anything. It's going to happen to us anyway. Look at what happened to
Yeah.
me. You know, I didn't choose this. It isn't what anybody would want, but you know, it's change. And I am changing. And like I said earlier, with this idea of we're shedding our old skin to rebirth our beautiful wings, you know, that's the way I
Yeah.
look at it. You know, I don't look at it that way every day. Got to be honest,
Right.
I don't always feel that way. But when I do, that's what's there for me. And
And
that's a blessing, isn't it?
it is a blessing. And it's so beautiful that but that's because you've allowed yourself the space to feel what you're feeling
Yeah.
and arrive there versus trying to just avoid whatever's coming up. Because I think that's like the point of what we're trying to get at today too, is allowing yourself to trust that process of being in your pain or your emotions, whatever the emotions are, whatever the surface level, like move through that and find out what the foundational emotions are beneath, you know, all of it. And that is where we learn so much about ourselves. Like you said, you've gone back to your childhood and all of the times, you know, you've been wounded in your life, or some of them, or whatever. But we, you know, we don't realize what we're carrying around with us until we're kind of forced to face it. And so, yes, it's not easy. It's easier to look the other way, but how does that serve us, really? And especially now with things changing so fast on the collective level, like, the most important thing we can do for ourselves is to go inward and to face the things that we haven't faced within ourselves, to kind of sift and sort through those and figure out, you know, build that relationship with ourselves, because that is going to be what helps us to navigate this change, because we never know. We might think we have an idea of what our future is, but that's just an illusion. That's just, you know, and it's like, we can only be in the present moment and handle the present moment, and allowing ourselves that time to build that inner kind of home, and point of, like, operating through our heart in that way is allowing us the ability and the capacity to move through change more gracefully and smoothly. And yeah, it's not always going to be pretty anyways. Like, even if we do this, like, you know, we're human. We're going to feel all the emotions on the full spectrum of them. And so, and it's okay. And I think that's another reason why we're talking about it, because we want, you know, we want our human experience to be okay, and to be okay to talk about it, and not to hide it and pretend that we're okay when we're not.
Totally. And that is the thing, isn't it? To get that message out to everyone. Like I've just said, you know, I behave like a toddler with a tantrum, you know, a lot of the time I'm angry, I'm everything, you know, but then within that sort of sentence, I'm going, but I'm grateful too, you know. This is the thing, we can be all of it, can't we? And sometimes I feel I'm all of it at exactly the same time, and that's okay too. It can be a little bit exhausting, but it is okay, isn't it, to feel all of those feelings. And I always remind myself that whatever I'm feeling, however bad it can be, however scary, however horrible it can be, it doesn't last. It does pass, doesn't it? Because we are
temporary.
changing. We are changing all the time, and that is a good thing, isn't it? That we are changing. And I think that's something for people to remember. You know, we don't have to be stuck in any one emotion or anything. We move through and we flow. And you said it, didn't you? This trust the process. You know, gosh, am I being tested for that one at the moment?
I know.
But it's good. This is what I need. These are the lessons I need to be learning. I thought I'd learnt them all. I've done a lot of work on myself, as we both have, you know. But here we go. We're doing it all again. And okay, I needed to learn a bit more, dig a bit deeper. I'm coming through this, you know. Trust the process. You know, when it was in one of your posts recently, I just went, oh, there you go. That's what I'm doing. That's what I need, the reminder of, you know.
Yeah.
And you said in one of them as well about awakenings. What a lovely way to look at change. It's an awakening.
It's a point of awakening. Yeah.
It's a chance for us to really be enlightened, isn't it? You know, this is change. This is something, you know, that we are going through. It's to see it, that just that word is it's not just a word, is it? It's a massive word. Awakening.
And
that's wonderful, isn't it? It's a wonderful way to look at it. It's an awakening. It's an opportunity.
It is so, and it's so powerful, self-empower, like it's empowering. And I keep like when you said that, I immediately think, and I wanted to touch on this and I didn't get there. It took the long way to get there, but about what you said, I want to go back to what you said about, like you know, having your little tantrums or whatever, but like also like the tools that you have, and the tools, like you speak about how you've helped me, or I've helped you, but you've helped me so much, especially with your gentle questioning. And I think that's like an important thing to remind anyone who's listening, is like there's things we can do to help us through this process, like your gentle questioning. I think like that's how you help people through whatever they're feeling in the moment. And it's helped me so much, just and I love the word gentle around it, because it makes it less scary to go into. And then you said something else about speaking it out, and I think that's like, we're physically you know, we have these thoughts and we can, you know, so we kind of like make sense of it in our mind and everything. But until we get it out of us, it's swirling around in us. So speaking it out, I think, like you said, is a way to also release it physically, like literally, when we're feeling a certain way. And of course, like, don't cause harm to anyone or anything in that process. Like, we do it for ourselves or probably by ourselves. And that is the whole point, is to allow ourselves that's part of the process of moving through it, I think. Anyways, and I've learned that from you too, like to speak it out. Like, so it's been so helpful. And, you know, reminding myself when I'm going through that, not just to get to the point of figuring out what is at the root of it, but then going through that process of actually physically releasing it through speaking it out. So.
And I think as well, as you touched on it, you know, we help each other in that way. You know, it's what we do there for each other. And to say, you know, that it is okay to ask for help as well. Again, something I never used to be very comfortable with. I still need to remind myself, you know, I can't do this on my own, because there are people to help, and it's so beneficial. And maybe this might be a topic for another time, you know, asking.
Maybe that's our next chit chat, is asking for help.
Please comment if you'd like, you know, if you think that's a good next topic for us. But I'd also like to say, you know, where I am reading your book over and over constantly in my own time and, you know, my own speed, that helps as well, because when you read about someone else going through something, you do realise you're not alone. And that is powerful as well, isn't it? So speaking to a friend, speaking out loud, speaking the way we're speaking, you know, I know that we're speaking to people that totally get what we're saying and are maybe going through it themselves too, in some shape or form. And they're going to get some comfort from hearing what we're saying. Your book gives people that, you know, it's even me that go, oh gosh, you know, she's gone through what I've been through. She can relate, you know. It really helps, doesn't it? So thank you for writing out what you've done, and thank you for giving us both the opportunity to speak here like we do, because it really does help a lot of people, doesn't it? It really, really does.
Yeah, it does. And, you know, thank you so much too for being willing to like share everything you're going through and to have these conversations. And I just feel so blessed and grateful that we continue to do this. And it's just, it always feels so relevant for whatever time, like whatever energies are happening in the moment, and collectively and individually. And it's just so beautiful. So thank you, Nadine, for your willingness and just everything that you are.
So. Thank you. And thank you too. Right back at you. I'm aware of the time, and we had that hiccup, didn't we? But I'd like to bring us back to one of the words that you said that is so powerful: surrender. And again, it's something that I really feel, you know, if we can surrender, going back to trust the process, surrender, give it up a little bit, you know, we will be okay. I used to be so scared of lacking control on everything, and surrender to me is big. So again, it's something that I'm constantly reminding myself. But you've said it in a few of your recent posts, and I said it earlier, but it might have been a bit that was cut off. Please do follow Trish. This is Trish Campbell, because her posts are so valuable. There's so much wording that is so poignant there.
And the calmer self method too.
There's stuff there, but it's not as poignant as yours. But yeah, thank you for that. But can I just, maybe, I don't know if I might bring it to the end of what we're saying. A little poem that you wrote about surrender, because actually, again, it's so powerful and those words are concise. So I'd like to read it.
Thank you.
People can think about, you know, what maybe they want to surrender to and everything. Have a little think about something, because if we step into that place of surrender, we are giving ourselves a gift, aren't we? And this little poem really sums it up beautifully. So if I may, I'd like to read it. And it's titled, What If She Were to Surrender? And I already get chills going, oh, what if? So surrender and flow. Everything you need is already within. Sometimes it really doesn't feel so. So true that what we seek also seeks us. The answers are there within. Fighting the current becomes habitual, like a drug, subtle intoxication, until it swallows us and pulls us under, gasping for breath that brings us back to life and back to ourselves. Sweet soul, what is it you desire? What if she were to surrender? Surrender all that is uncomfortable and unknown. Surrender control over outcome. Surrender to the shadows of darkness. Shine her light on that murky, earthy field. What is there yet to be uncovered? Is it all she ever dreamed of? Yes, indeed it is. Wow. So powerful, isn't it? So powerful. And that is one of the typical examples of what I need to read over and over again, because there is so much in there, isn't there? And a lot of what we've just been talking about, isn't it? You know, that if we were to surrender, you know, it's something we just do as a habit, isn't it? We don't give in and we don't do that. And actually, so what really hits me, surrender control over outcome.
Yeah, that's a big one. Yes.
Isn't it? Isn't it? So there's just so much there, and that is something I will come back to and read and read and read, because it just is. And as I was reading it then, you know, getting the chills. So thank you for letting me, thank you everyone for letting me say that out loud, because it's so powerful, isn't it? Surrender.
Thank you so much, Nadine. That was beautiful. Always beautiful when you read it so well. Thank you. And I'm just, again, grateful that we get to do this together, and can't wait for the next one, as always. And where can people find you and your work if you're like offering that at this moment?
I am. I'm not actively working that much at the moment, but I will always, if anyone's got any questions or anything, definitely, you know, I'm always here for anybody. The Calmer Self Method on Instagram here. My YouTube channel is full. It's Calmer Self. It's full of meditations. It's full of chats like this. There's tons on there, isn't there? So
there's tons of, like, if you're looking to get into meditation, if you've never tried it, or you have a lot of guided meditations that are so beautiful, which is a good entry point into meditation. So just so beautiful. Thank you for all you do, and to help others, and just, it's so beautiful to witness you and sharing your experience as you go through this, because this is another facet of life. And
so
sorry about that. That was an emergency alert that just came through. Another little glitchy thing that we're experiencing today. So
I think it's perfect for us to sort of bring this to an end. So thank you so much, everybody who's been listening. If you watch this in the replay, put a comment. We will answer any ideas for what you want us to talk about next, maybe asking for help or anything. And look us up. You know, we've all got tons of content out there, both of us, haven't we? So have a look and get to know us a bit better. But thank you again, Trish. It's been so lovely.
And I do just want to plug this. If you do happen to want a copy, you can get copies internationally or worldwide on Amazon. Also, you can buy them direct from me on my website. This is trishcampbell.com for all the ways to buy them, purchase your copy. And just thank you everyone for your support, and please leave us any messages or comments in the comments where we'll post this live afterwards. So just deep gratitude.
Lovely.
Thanks everyone.
Yes, I will echo that. This book travels. I'm in England, Trish is in Canada. It's travels. It's no problem, is it? Wherever you are, you can get it. Thank you so much. Just look forward to our next chat.
Thank you as well. Bye everyone.
Bye bye.